Hi everyone, thank you for watching I See Melanie, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the new season of Netflix's Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. So, this is based on a real true crime story that happened 30 plus years ago, as this series, that's what it does. And this particular story with Lyle and Erik Menendez, this is one that I personally remember as a tween back in the early 90s. Their images were very much front and center back in the day. And admittedly, I knew a little bit about the story. I wasn't following it as closely as I was the OJ story a couple years later, a year later. But yeah, their images were all over the place. Again, this is a time where North America, was kind of very weirdly obsessed with killers and killers on trial. This is a time when killers would be interviewed on daytime talk shows, which is so wild, but I guess we were used to it then. But looking back on it, it was so crazy. And also, this is a time before the internet. I only got the internet like in my house in 1996. I think it became a little bit widespread, not really, in 1995. So this was in 1993. And yeah, this was a very big deal. And what I remembered from back then was these two guys, two brothers, killed their parents, and they were rich people who lived in LA. That's basically all I knew about it. And I knew the end of the story. I don't think this is a spoiler to say that they're in prison for the rest of their lives. And that was basically all I knew about the story until relatively recently. I'd say maybe within the last 7 or 8 years or so. I've been, listening to podcasts talk about their stories, and I've seen clips online that they allege that the reason, or one of the reasons why they killed their parents, was because there was a lot of SA in the household, in particular with the dad. And I should probably mention this beforehand. Um, this show this show was what trigger warnings were made for. This show hits on all these terrible topics. So obviously we have parricide, matricide, patricide. They killed their parents. We all knew that. But we deal with just violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. You deal with SA from parent to child, SA from child to child, verbal abuse, mental abuse, everything. It's a lot. It is a lot. So be warned for that. It's so much that I actually have only watched 7 of the 9 episodes. I haven't watched the last two yet because after I got to the seventh episode, I thought, okay, Melanie, you gotta take a break. You need a palate cleanser because this is some very, very serious stuff. And I have in it's weird. I find watching true crime, or like listening to true crime podcasts, to be, I don't know. I feel uneasy about it, even though I consume it. Um, but yeah, I feel really weird about consuming it, to be quite frank, but I do it. So yeah, so if any of these topics are triggering for you and upsetting to you, I would recommend like stopping this video now and not watching the show, because it goes into a lot of detail about all these different types of things. And for that reason, I am not going to be giving a full-fledged breakdown of every episode, because, well, for one, we know the outcome, so there's what's going to happen, but also because some of the details, like, I don't even want to put on my YouTube channel, and it was a lot of really depraved stuff. But I'll just give you kind of overall my thoughts on what I have seen thus far. So again, I've seen 7 episodes. The first 2 or 3 episodes, I thought they were well executed. I enjoy Ryan Murphy productions. I consumed the last season of Monsters. I love Pose. I love Pose. I I used to watch Glee back in the day, and I know there are more recent things that he's done that I've watched and I've really enjoyed, but I can't think of them right now. But he has an effect sometimes. Obviously, this is based on a true story, but things are a bit sensationalized because it is a piece of entertainment, right? So I found the first two episodes to kind of like, in a way, they were, I wouldn't say trivializing is the right word, but they were kind of like making light, in my opinion, of what went on in the family. And they really showcase the boys, which it could be the real situation, as just these, California rich kids who are kind of asses and just like, wanting to live off their parents' money and not do anything and be jerks and have fun, entertain their noses at parties and all that kind of stuff. So like when we first start out, we see them in a limo ride because people love their limos back in the day, and we find out they're going to their parents' memorial service. And of course, they're listening to Milli Vanilli in their car on the way there. And it starts off kind of weird. It's like, what's going on with these people, especially the one brother? The actors playing Lyle and Eric. So we've got Eric played by Cooper Koch or Koch, not quite sure how to pronounce his last name, and Nicholas Chavez, who plays Lyle Menendez. We see Lyle, he seems to be a bit more unhinged, a bit more of a jerk, and the more domineering of the two. Lyle is the older one. I think they're 3 years apart, so they're very close in age. So we see them just living like this high life after their parents died. And at the end of the first episode, we see them actually execute the execution of their parents. And then, so it's very non-linear, and we go back, we see the process of how they acquired the guns, their interaction with their parents. So the dad, Jose, played by Javier Bardem, he is a very overbearing man who is of Cuban descent, who came to America, and he wants his kids to do so much better. He has very anti-Cuban views and things like that. He's a very domineering person. Like, he's a physical presence, and just the way he commands himself, he's very imposing. And the mom, she's kind of like, the typical housewife, you know what I mean. And she's maybe a little bit on some uppers, and she enjoys her wine. So she's just kind of a vacuous, delinquent mother. So they don't have a good home life. There's lots of fighting. The father berates the kids all the time for their grades. He berates one kid for cheating at Princeton, which you can get that to an extent. But the other one, who is not so great at tennis, he goes on the field and he embarrasses him in front of everybody who's watching him do it. So things aren't good. So all these things explain why they feel negatively towards their parents. But I know I've heard other cases, like, even though people are abused by their parents, they still love them and they still kind of like respect them in a way. And it might seem completely not right or logical when you look at it, but I have seen way too many stories like this to not believe it's true. So even though I can't picture myself feeling that way, I can say that now as somebody who hasn't lived through what they lived through, right? So not everything has to be rational or logical to make sense. Something I learned like 1,000 years ago. When I was watching, I think it was episode 2, I thought to myself, Ryan Murphy, I think you're kind of creating this very inappropriate dynamic and like physical um, intimacy between these two brothers that I felt very uncomfortable with. But come to learn that this is part of what the real Lyle and Erik Menendez experienced and did when they were younger. And these weird expressions of touch and stuff stem from the fact that their father um, took advantage of them, essayed them, and yeah. So it appears as though like Ryan Murphy is actually being true to the story without over dramatizing things to make it more salacious for the views. Um, there is one episode, I believe it's episode 4, that kind of showcases or kind of puts a spotlight on the younger brother. So that is Eric. And this episode is so interesting because it is a two-person scene. So it's with Eric and his lawyer, and I'm forgetting her name, but the actress playing it is doing a bang up job. So they are in the prison because at this point Eric is in custody. And so the lawyer is seated here, Eric is sitting across from her over here. And it is a one-shot episode. And the episode is like, I don't know, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, however long it is. And this, when I first watched it, I'm like, hold on, like they're keeping this shot for a very long time. So we see the back of the lady's, see her perm, and we see Eric's face. And it was almost as if the camera crew, the crew went for a coffee break and came back. And the only difference in the positioning of the camera, well, technically the camera didn't even change position, but it went into focus more on Eric, so it zoomed in on him. But it was static basically the entire time. And that episode, I think the reason why they chose that approach for that episode because the episode was really made to focus in on the content of what he was talking about. And again, going back to the issue of trigger warnings and the stuff that is discussed about the history of these boys and their parents and their dad in particular, this goes into minute detail of the vile, depraved, disgusting, disturbing stuff that this man did to these kids. And it will impact your mood because it was absolutely disgusting. That's why I feel as though I should mention that in this video because I wasn't expecting that, and it was a lot. And sometimes when you watch things like that, and you don't know what's coming, or you don't have an idea of like the minuscule details and every little thing they mentioned. Like I didn't know they'd go into like that degree of detail. Like it was gross. It was disgusting. Um, yeah, if you're not ready for it, it can really take you out. Like for me, on a side tangent, I watched Baby Reindeer this year. All I knew about that show was that it was about a guy who was a bartender. He's like trying to be a comedian too. And there's this lady who's older than him who's kind of stalking him at the bar. That's all I knew about Baby Reindeer. All I knew. Cut to like, I don't know, 3 episodes in where I am so disgusted. I feel so sick. I feel so sad for the character. And then every episode until the very end made me, oh my gosh, I was messed up for a week after watching Baby Reindeer. It was so disturbing. And then come to find out that it's based on a true story and based on the guy who's acting on it. Yeah, if I knew all those things going in beforehand, I don't know if I would have watched it. Um, and so that's how I feel about this show. And when I say things like that, like this not, I don't mean to take away from the actors' portrayal because all those actors did really, really good work. They're doing really good work on it. Like the two kids, Eric and Lyle. So Lyle Cooper is Eric, Cooper Coker, Cooper Koch. Very good. And the one who's playing Lyle, so Nicholas Chavez, he was actually on a soap opera. Was it I forgot which one it was, but he was on a soap opera. And I watch soap operas. I watch The Young and the Restless. I'm taking a break from it now because it's really bad. But I watch soap operas. And so I know that unfortunately soap opera actors aren't really taken seriously. And if you want to, elevate yourself to either primetime TV or a TV on a streaming service like Netflix, you need to like get in and get out and make yourself known and show your chops as to how well you can act because you can be stuck in that soap opera role for the rest of your life, which might not be bad for some people, but a young guy like him, he should like flex his acting muscles, and he is in this show. Another thing I really liked about this, it was a period piece. I love period pieces, and this is a period that I remember personally, and I was a tween during that time. So looking at the style, so like the interior design, the outfits, like the attorneys her suits, those like double-breasted suits that were the jackets were like very long-waisted. Like those are so, oh my gosh. I don't know if I'd wear them now, but I love seeing those 90s styles. And the music was good too. Milli Vanilli, that was one of my first CDs. They played Snap, they played Crowded House. They played a song that I thought I was the only person who remembered it. Money Talks, Dirty Cash. I loved that song back in the day, and I was so glad to hear it. I was like, "Hold on, they're actually playing this song?" It was so cool. So, yeah, so all in all, again, I haven't watched the entire thing. I know how the story ends because I used to watch, well, I watched the news and I watched the news back then, so I know they're in jail forever. But yeah, so that's what I would say. So in terms of recommending it, it's always again so weird with these true crime stories, especially one dealing with such heavy subject matter involving children and everything that the story entails. So I will say that the acting is superb and the set design superb. It looks good. The topic of discussion is horrible. Javier Bardem is amazing. Well, he's doing a good job in it, very good job in it. Chloe Sevigny, I never knew how to pronounce her name, but she's doing a good job too. And yeah, the lawyer was great. Nathan Lane is always fun to see on TV. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. I will eventually finish the last two episodes, but I think I need a bit of a break. I need something light to see. So, The Walking Dead is coming out. Daryl Dixon's show is coming out in a couple of days. I'll watch that. So I'll watch people like, killing zombies and killing each other. And then I'll come back to this series. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching me here on I See Melanie, and I'll see you later. Bye.